Welcome to Episodes from the Garage, the official, unofficial voice of the Elite Girls Rugby League. 11 teams from Connecticut to South Carolina and some of the best girls high school rugby in the States. Listen in for game recaps, stories, interviews, and more from in and around the EGRL. Episodes from the Garage is made possible with support from Basecamp 31, a New Jersey nonprofit that brings individuals and businesses together to invest in healthy community and personal development through shared human experience. And now, episode 9.
Wow, 9.
9.
Almost double digits.
Almost.
Yeah. I didn't think we were actually going to get one in this summer because, obviously the rugby landscape for EGRL has gone a little bit quiet. I think everybody, athletes first and foremost needed a good break, kind of let the bodies kind of regenerate and get some time to do some other things, spend time with family, get out there to the beach, to the mountains, wherever you go for the summer. So it's been a nice respite, certainly for the coaches. I'm sure the athletes as well. But we look forward to seeing everybody very shortly, but I'll leave that to you. We do have a killer opportunity today. We have a very special guest, somebody who we know very, very well and has been part of the Morris rugby landscape all her life, really. So let's introduce current USA Eagle who will be taking her talents to the Leicester Tigers in the Women's Premiership this fall in Leicester, England. Welcome, Tess Feury.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm super stoked.
Our live audience.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, I'm super stoked to be here and, get a feel for the podcast.
Awesome. Oh, fantastic. Well, listen, we're glad you could make it. We know it's a busy schedule. Understood you actually had some time off in the great state of Alaska as well.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, right now I'm actually on a 6-week break from rugby, which does not happen often. Enjoying some downtime. I did a non-rugby vacation to Alaska to visit one of my very best friends. So I didn't even bring a pair of cleats, which is very rare for me. So I definitely enjoyed that. And now getting back into it a little bit, but resting at home before heading into the fall season.
Nice.
Fantastic.
So did you get fidgety at some point? Were you like, all right, where are my cleats? Or you were like, no, I'm completely out?
My friend that I visited is a marathon runner, so we definitely did some running, but not really rugby running. So it was a good mix-up.
Not bad.
And I think that was, you went up with Allie Black, right?
Yes, actually, Allie Black did play rugby for the Denville Dogs. She
Correct.
played flag and a little bit for Morris in the very first season. She played a couple games. She took her talents to running D1 track at Rutgers. So good alternative to rugby, but still a lifelong rugby friend.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
The least fun version of running, though. I mean, if you got to run, that's... Whew.
Well, as a forward, I only run when chased. So.
Yeah.
Same.
Wait, you do this because you want to? Sorry.
Exactly.
Go ahead.
Why?
Carry on.
So let's start from the beginning, Tess. Rugby is family in the Feury household. Let's talk about USA flag rugby, the Denville Dogs, and your family as well, and the involvement that your mom, your dad, your brothers, yourself have had in this great sport, and in particular in this area.
Yeah, I really can't remember my life without rugby. Started playing flag rugby when I was 4 years old. My dad started the youth flag rugby program in Denville, so it's really born into it. And at first, it really was just all fun. I looked forward to every Saturday where I got to run around with my brothers. We all got to be at the same field, the whole family in one place, and that was really special to me. So I really just loved how I could share that sport and that day with my brothers. So that's what really kept me going back to rugby. And I aged out of flag rugby in 8th grade, and I wanted to keep playing. But at that time, there was no longer a girls' tackle program for Morris. There was in previous years, but it had folded due to numbers. So with the help of my dad, we restarted the Morris girls high school team in 2012.
And there was some, I understand it was a fairly successful few seasons. I do want to dial back to the flag and kind of talk about that a little bit because, I think you really saw it from the inception. And I remember when my family moved out here in 07 and then summer of 08 when we were involved, I could not believe the amount of kids and teams that were playing at the Black River Chester tournament. And I think that year was actually Guinness World Record breaking for mini and flag rugby. And, you know, what did you see? Like, as, you know, I know you were young and everything, but, I mean, it was really an impressive growth spurt in the sport in this area.
Yeah, with flag, there was just so many kids playing more and more every single season. I mean, for Denville Dogs alone, I think we were averaging like 130 kids playing a summer.
Wow, it was amazing.
Which is, it's a lot.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And families would come back summer after summer, and, you know, they would have all their kids playing in one location. And I think people started to realize how much flag rugby helped with other sports. Just the basic running and agility lines, the hand-eye coordination, the kicking. I mean, flag rugby definitely helped me with my soccer career in high school going forward. And I think that was kind of a way we like advertise it to families. You know, it's 6 weeks in the summer. It's really fun. It's going to gear you up for other sports you want to play throughout the year. So it was really cool to see that many families and kids playing at once.
I couldn't agree more. And Mike, Bill, you guys have been involved with flag as well. You know, for a long time. I mean, thoughts on the program? I mean, you know, you've heard mine are positive. I know you guys too, but
yeah, totally. So I was never at that early stage. So I remember kind of hearing about that Guinness World Record breaking.
It's amazing.
And I remember seeing the performances. All three of my kids played flag. You know, at Chester, at you know, with the fire trucks and you know, it's just a ton of fun. But you know, the beauty of it is that you really do get to see something that by the end of the 6 weeks actually begins to look like rugby. You know, like week one, it's kind of like, all right, this is chaos. You know, like I have no idea what's happening out there, and you know, kids are just out there having fun. But by the end, it's like, man, they have the principles, and it's really just add in the tackle, and we've got the real game. Like so, yeah, I think it's awesome. I'd love to see more and more kids make that jump.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
But yeah, it's cool to see.
Bill?
I actually was one of the first coaches for flag for Denville.
Wow.
Year one, Denville Dogs. And Tess, I know I've told you this story, but I'm going to tell it to our 15 listeners. I still have a mental picture of your brother stealing my hat, Jake, not Blaze, because at 10, he was taller than me. Stealing my hat, running away, and he wanted me to chase him. I wouldn't chase him, so
You're making that sound like it's a challenge.
I would send Jesse Cisco after him to go get it. And I get my hat back, then all of a sudden Tess came up and like kind of tapped me. And you had the biggest smile on your face. I turned around, I'm like, I'm going to get you. And you're just smiling, you're running away. And I still have that picture in my head.
And I'm still running away from forward.
Yeah, right on.
That's what I do
not a
all
bad
the time.
choice. Not a bad choice. Yeah. It's really a very simple game.
That was year one. That was that 97, 98, something like that. I was still playing at the time.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it was fun because we took the kids, older and younger. That was it. There was two teams. I think the cutoff was like 5th grade to 8th, something like that.
Oh, okay. So that was before they stratified it all out with
Hawks
it was
year one.
and Eagles and whatever. Okay.
Funny story about Eagles. When we got the first Denville Dogs flag rugby trailer, I was like, I don't know, 7 years old, and I was all excited. My mom was she was gonna let me set it up, help her set it up, and she's like, okay, I want you to take a Sharpie and label each ball bag with Hawks, Eagles, and I wrote Eagles, completely spelt it wrong, crossed it out, took me 3 times, it's still in the trailer, X'd out 3 times, and then I went on to be an Eagle, and my mom just loves that story about how when I was like little 7-year-old me couldn't even spell it. And now look at me.
It's a kit bag, man. That needs to be.
That is fantastic.
What team do you play for?
We're going to have to go look for that.
It's still there.
All right, we'll get a picture for the next podcast for certain. That's great.
The one thing I remember really well from the first year, Tess Feury's father asked me to help him build goalposts. I won't say his name anymore. He's Tess Feury's father for now on.
Sticking with it.
And we made these goalposts that were foldable. Out of wood. He had this crazy idea. They were on hinges and everything, and it worked great. We just take them, throw them in the woods, take them out.
Wow.
They weighed like 10 pounds.
Wow.
They're perfect for that season, though.
That's pretty cool.
They only lasted 1 season.
Wow.
Well, we love you, Tom.
That's Tess Feury's father.
But I think one of the amazing things that I saw, too, is I continued to be involved with the flag program were the amount of men and women who were involved with Morris Rugby who were giving of their time in the summer. I mean, I think to Adam Brennan and Jan Monrad, your mom, who still runs the program now. Neil Hogan, Andy Steinberg. I mean, the list goes on, but it was such a, when I found out, like, most of these, men and women had been involved with this already, the club, not just this component of it. I was like, man, I feel like we're home. I feel like we're in a good spot, and that certainly, played through in the time that my family's been involved with this great club. So hats off to your family for kicking that off, and in particular your mom, who, with Neil Hogan, still runs this program so many years later.
Yes, she does.
So my question, though, is, and I don't have an answer to this. I've never seen rugby outside of the States, but like you have, and I know you guys have connected with other clubs. Is that the exception or the rule? Like in a really good club, is it like that we cross the age span and the people involved at the top levels are giving back to the bottom because they love the sport, or is that unique here?
Well, I mean, in my experience, it seems to be, I think we mirror like the formidable, those cradle to grave clubs from around the world.
Yeah.
We're almost kind of like a blueprint of what's happening in other parts of the world. I mean, I defer to our pals Brian and Chris on that, but correct me if I'm wrong. This is, rugby is, it's family, right? It's like it starts at the little, with the little people all the way up through, and we, like you point out, Morris always makes a trip over to Castle Island, where we play their old boys. We every year, and it's been going on now. I think this year will be the 11th, never to be repeated again trip to Castle Island. And it's amazing because like the young guys and gals are out, the old timers are out. Everybody's in the clubhouse after the game. A nice curry afterwards. In the cold weather, super nice. A couple kegs of beer, and then it's down the block to the pub for a music session at K Lee. So yeah. I think we're very lucky to be involved with a club that very much mirrors what's going on there. And Tess, I'd turn it to you. You've spent some time playing over there, and do you see the same similarities?
Yeah, I love what you said about how Morris is kind of the blueprint for the U.S., because that is so true. We have such a strong club from youth to men and women in comparison to other clubs in the U.S., but it does mimic what's overseas. In England, Ireland, New Zealand, you see these beautiful fields with clubhouses, and the youth play the first game and the men play the last game, and everyone stays all day. Wow. And we're really lucky to have that here at Morris. And I really do think other clubs across the U.S. Should be looking to us to kind of mirror that, and that's how we're going to get to that next level and kind of match those other countries.
Love that. Yeah, that's how I imagine it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm still sort of dying to have that experience where you spend the whole day and you see it. Like I have not had that personally, but like I totally imagine it that way, and it's like, man, that's the way it should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we went on tour in 2011 for World Cup, went to Waikanae, New Zealand, and they had it set up where they had the minis start out early in the morning, and it went right through age grade levels all the way up. Then they never had a women's team. They put one together to play the women who were with us on tour. I think they played touch. I don't think it was tackle. And they destroyed our women. It was the first time they ever played. And then the men played.
Yeah.
And I must say, they only beat us by 5 points.
It's pretty good.
But at one point, we had 17 players on our team.
Yeah,
half of them were Kiwis.
Wait a minute. Yeah, that's all right.
True story.
Hey, history only remembers the scoreline, buddy. You beat us by 5. It was a close game. That's it. Story over.
That's the story of Castle Island, man.
Coming back though, right after that game, we had to leave. We had to go see South Africa play. I think it was Fiji in Wellington. So we had a 40-minute bus ride there, 40 minutes back. Then we got kidnapped by friends of mine at their house before we got to the clubhouse. We walk up to the clubhouse finally, and we open the doors, and they go, "Get out. Wait outside." Uh-oh. Finally, the doors open. We're out there for like 5 minutes. The doors open. All of them, everybody in the clubhouse does the haka.
Wow.
To welcome us in.
That's
It was amazing.
Yeah, no kidding. That's like one of those flashbulb memories.
Yeah, that's like
never,
it's giving me goosebumps. Like
When we were in New Zealand this past fall for the Rugby World Cup, we were in this really small village training up in the North Island of New Zealand, and there was probably a group of like 6 or 7 little boys who would watch our practice, and after we just like toss a ball around with them. No parents there, like just kids on summer break hanging out. And at the end of our last practice, they said, "Can we do the haka for you?" And this group of 6 and 7-year-old boys did the haka for us.
Wow.
And I was like, that's just so special that even from that young age, without anyone telling them they wanted to show their respect and their gratitude for us, coming to their club to train. And it was really,
awesome.
really cool.
Yeah, that's great.
that's so deeply cultural, right? And it's like, and like to your point, like a 6, 7-year-old knows how important that is. It's like, I don't know, it's like a hug over here or something, but just more meaningful. It's like crazy. So we touched on it, or you did, Tess, the rebirth of the high school team in 2012-ish, I think it was. Tell us a little bit about that, because I think without stealing too much thunder, your team was the first to bring home some silverware.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, when I aged out of flag rugby, I knew I wanted to keep playing rugby. In addition to other sports, I was still playing soccer and running track in high school, but rugby was just such a special part. I wanted to keep it in my life. And my dad helped me. We had about 5 or 6 girls at practices for a whole season before we even had any games. We did have to start with 7s just to get numbers up.
Yeah, sure.
But in 2012, we were able to have our first full 15 season for Morris. Like you said, kind of the rebirth of the team. And we were actually able to take home a state championship that year.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really great. There was a couple girls teams. I believe there was 3 girls teams in the state at that point. So we were able to have that, and I think that really built morale around the club. It kind of like got the noise going around the club, got people aware that, we were trying to bring the Morris High School girls team back. And from then on, I feel like it's just flourished and flourished. Ever since I even left the program, every year I come back, I'm so impressed with how much it's grown. From those first practices at Menin with 3 girls under a floodlight to now seeing it now, it's just, it's amazing.
So tell me, for me, like one of the things that's been really cool to see, and I don't have that 2012, kind of historical lens, but it seems to me like the sport has clearly evolved in the women's game, and even at the high school level. Like, talk to that a little bit, because I think that's really important. Most of the kids who are watching this podcast are kids who are playing currently. And I don't know that they really have a full appreciation for the level of play that's happening right now compared to even, which is not that long ago. I mean, like, yes, 2012 is 9-10 years ago, but like that's not that long. And I feel like there's been a big jump at this level.
Huge jump. This past week, I was at the Morris Girls Rookie Clinic, just helping out. And it was U12, U14, and high school girls. And they were teaching ball placement. And it was, a pike, a Superman, and one other. And I was like, when I was in high school, we learned one. There was one type of technique. We didn't have enough knowledge and coaching and time to teach, multiple ways to place a ball. And I was just like, wow, they're learning that when they're 12 years old. Like, that's incredible. So, like, being able just to see how many more the skill execution and how much more detail you guys can go into now with, more coaches and just more numbers playing is really impressive.
That's cool.
That is great to hear. And that's a great question, too, because, we talk about this all the time. That's just over a decade, and we're just under a decade to the World Cup, men's and women's, right? And to hear you say that the development has jumped leaps and bounds. I think as fans, as Eagle fans, men and women, I know I'm heartened to hear that, because that's another 10 years ahead of us. What do we look like in 10 years from now? And
that's it.
I think if that trajectory continues, to me that says out of the pool stages, and competitive.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, obviously, I'm sure you guys have talked about the amount of university and college opportunities for high school girls now. When I was applying to colleges, it was 2014. I graduated high school, and there was a few top rugby universities, and I was looking at every one of them. You know,
Sure.
there's probably 5 or 6, and now there's triple that
Yeah.
to look at. So just, I mean, even if I was 2 years younger, my college opportunities
Could've
would
been
have been
different.
so different.
Wild.
And I'm very happy with how everything turned out. But it is wild to look back and, you know, just see all the opportunities there are now.
I think you and I had a conversation about that. It might have been you were just out of college or maybe a senior, and we talked about it. You were saying the opportunities the girls were getting were incredible, and they're only going to be more and more. And you were dead on with that from however long ago that conversation was. And I think about that often because every day you're seeing another team going varsity in a girls' game.
100%.
And I'm getting more and more emails from coaches of schools, which is great. And we're getting more and more girls getting scholarships and going to the colleges.
Yeah, it really is. It's absolutely amazing to watch and to see that happen, and it's opening doors in a lot of places.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, on the academic side, institutions, following a college path, but I feel like it's also pushing the game, and like when you
100%.
watch the game, it's like, man, there are more athletes, there are more people seeing
Yeah.
this, playing this, kind of connected to it at some level. And so hopefully, with any luck, that does push the whole pool up. It's kind of like, all right, like, hey, in 10 years, when this thing is on our soil, boy, it'd be nice to be a competitive, like a team that says, hey, like you be careful. Like they might win this thing. They might come at you, and I don't think that's impossible.
I don't either.
I'm 100% biased, but I don't think it's impossible.
Yeah. Oh, of course the bias is there. And to caveat my comment about making it out of the pool stages, if I'm not mistaken, in 2017 when you and your team were in Ireland, you came in 4th.
Yeah.
In the world. I mean, that's that's pretty damn impressive.
Something.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
It's something.
At this past Rugby World Cup, statistically, we were the oldest team. We had, the average oldest age. And I can guarantee in 10 years when we're hosting, that's not going to be us. They're investing so much in the U20s and the U23s. And, like those young college athletes are totally coming for those national team spots. So it's going to be really interesting to see kind of that average age drop as the level in the university goes up.
One of the podcasts, I don't remember, one of the episodes, I think Brian mentioned that, was like, yeah, when you looked at it, the average, we were hold on, wait, what?
That's from 2014. This is from 2017 World Cup.
Wow, that's funny.
Look at that.
Remember these heads? Mm-hmm. All the middle school
signature's the
girls
same.
had them. Yep.
That's a first glossy right there. Like,
She was the first one to sign one of the heads on the fridge.
Steph, why don't you have one of those, Steph?
And actually,
head's too
I have
big.
the ticket from the games down there too.
Wow, I have a prominent location on the fridge.
You do.
Look at that.
It's an important spot.
I love it.
That's the most important piece of equipment in this garage. I mean, so
True story.
Not everything has
as a
to work,
place
but
of honor,
that,
that has to work and work well. Yeah.
that's a good point.
For the food and the sodas and all that. Yeah.
I
the
mean,
usual.
obviously,
There's food in there. I didn't know there was food in
the
there.
Evian.
Yeah, I think it's behind some of those
56
craft beers
degrees
that have
and
been in
cold,
there for 100
please.
years.
Yeah, but that I think you bring up a really, really nice point, is that is pushing, and as Brian mentioned and you mentioned, like when we look at it just on straight age, we were the oldest team.
Sure.
That might be an interesting like kind of signal, like a metric.
Yeah.
If we're putting that caliber player out and they're 5 years younger, then that says our skill set isn't taking that long to develop. And that means that we must be starting earlier. So like that logic, I mean, to me at least, that holds. I think that's an interesting thing. I mean, is that what your experience says? Like, are you playing against or seeing these other players and going, wow, that person can play?
Yeah, it was interesting. So this past summer, the U20s beat Canada in a game up in Ottawa.
Yes, they did.
They did, yes.
Sorry.
And
Didn't put us on a map.
the last time our U20s had beat Canada was when I had played back in 2016,
Wow.
I believe.
Wow.
So it had been a decent amount of years since we beat Canada. And when I look at which of our players from when I played U20s, how many of us are playing on the national team versus how many of the Canadians are now playing on the national team, the Canadians had so many more. They truly invested in those U20
Yeah,
players,
yeah.
and they brought them all the way up their pathways. Where for us, there was, I think, only 3 of us who had played with the
Interesting.
U20s in 2016 and now are still on the national team. So when you kind of see that, I'm hoping with the success this summer of the U20s, USA Rugby is going to invest in those players,
Yeah.
put all their resources, time, effort, coaching into them, so then they can be the ones playing in 10 years' time versus falling off.
Yeah, see, I was not aware of that. That's an interesting statistic because I think it does really paint that picture of like truly a pathway. Like, yeah, we've identified you, we're investing in you, and not everybody makes it through the pathway, of course, but like the
Damn good start.
investment is there.
Yeah,
Like the effort we're behind you. That's pretty neat.
And I feel a name change coming. Alyssa Eisenhardt's dad.
Wait a minute, wait for it. All right.
Oh, I feel that name change coming very soon.
Sad trombone.
Oh man! So just on kind of continuing on that thread, Tess. Like I guess the question is, like when you were the U20 at that point, like was it more crossover athletes that you were teamed up with, and less who had the experience that you did with coming through kind of the progression of rugby? And is that kind of what you're alluding to now? Is that we'll be younger, obviously, because of this pathway that we're getting after. It's like, listen, we're a big nation. We're hyper competitive when it comes into many sports, and they transition well in some instances into rugby. But I don't think there's honestly anything better than ball in hand from like age 4 to to your mid 20s.
Yeah, on the national team, I used to be the anomaly, and I was the only one who had picked up a rugby ball before college, and that is slowly changing.
Fantastic.
I mean, 2017 World Cup, I think there was 2 of us, me and Katherine Johnson, who's from Minnesota.
That's
And
actually
was
kind of
it.
crazy. Like I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that really that takes some perspective. Like, wait a minute. So we're putting people out at our highest level
Right.
who really don't know the game well.
Yeah.
Good athletes, obviously. But
Yeah.
like, that's wild.
Yeah, like what happened to the identifying players from the Fallbrooks of the world, the South End, Amazon, United. I just you wonder, right? And it's like, I guess to your point, like pathway money wasn't there at that point in time. So you do the best that you can with the talent pool that you have.
Yeah, and it definitely is getting better. I mean, now we have a lot of athletes who have played in high school. So, like, just the landscape, even how it's changed over the past 5 years is wild. But, I mean, I still think what sets me apart from my competitors in my position is my rugby IQ. And, like, I do a testament that to flag rugby and Morris girls rugby, like the high school team just playing for so long. I mean, I'm not the biggest, the strongest, or the fastest, but just knowing rugby and having a ball in my hands longer and having the rugby IQ has really set me apart.
And I think you should pat yourself on the back. I think your work rate is probably the highest.
Yeah, so I was going to say...
I know what you do on the side because I talked to your mother. Steph and I talked to your mother last week. We know what you're doing off the field and during your break. And that's what gets you up there.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched... I can't remember which game it was. I feel like it was maybe the second game. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. We can edit all of this out if I'm wrong. But I feel like they had you slotted at wing for a while. And it didn't feel right. Like, just based on, like, you on the field, it didn't seem to click. You clearly want to be a 15, and it's like that's what feels home to you. But there was a game, might have been the second World Cup game, and I felt like you had a breakout game. Like, you just blew shit up. I mean, like, I don't know how else to say it. Like, you were all over the field and coming up and made a couple of really key hits.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like at that moment.
Breakaway runs were safe when you were playing.
I remember watching it. I remember watching it in my living room with my daughters and going like, this is a breakout game for her.
Yeah.
And then you've been the 15 since then. I mean, like, am I way off the mark, or like, is that kind of how it went down?
No, I'm smiling because it's so true. And I feel that, like, within myself, too. I was always slotted at wing, utility back, and no one really just invested in me. And I set a goal for myself. Like, I don't want to just be on the team. Like, I want to be the starting fullback.
Right
like,
on.
That's who I want to be. And even through the World Cup, the first game I didn't get on the field.
Okay.
Second game I got in as wing. Finally, the third
Maybe
game.
it was the third game.
They gave me a shot at fullback, and I agree. I had one of my best international performances.
Okay.
And since then, I feel like I've solidified my spot more, just because I feel like I can make a big impact there. I can see the whole field. I can kind of work on my own timing, slot in when I know I need. But it is one of those things where, like, I was given that one opportunity and I knew I had to take it. I knew that was my one shot to take it, and I was really proud of myself for proving myself in that
Fantastic.
game. But now it's maintaining it.
Sure.
Like we talked about, those U20s are working hard to come up and take my spot. But it was just one of those things where I knew what position was right for me, and I just had to convince everyone else of it.
No,
I think you did
Not
that.
the easiest thing in the world,
You
right?
totally did. I mean, that was. I mean, like, and granted, I mean, you're here in our studio, and we're. And I'm not trying to butter you up, but like I just remember sitting there going like, wow, this is a different level than we've seen from you at the time, and specifically defensively, that's what I remember the most. Is you came up and had one or two like just monster tackles,
breakaway runs that just it was don't stop.
And it was kind of like, man, if a coach is not picking this up, they're asleep over there.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like
There's a highlight reel. I don't know if it was from college or if it was from playing on a national team, where somebody had a breakaway down the wing and you came out of nowhere and tackled them. I don't remember who it was against. It might have been college, but and the announcer was going crazy, going, "Oh my God, he's going to get her! She's going to get her! She's going to get her!"
No, that was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Who was that again?
That was I think when you guys went to France last summer, or 2 summers ago. And I don't remember what team it was, but we were watching the game in here, and all of a sudden we see you come through like a heat-seeking missile on this post-pattern run. And it's like, I mean, this woman had it in her head that it was 5 points and it was going to be easy, and you just...
Ruined her day. Ruined her day.
Because we were all like, oh, my God, like celebrating for you. Yeah, it was great.
No, I do take a lot of pride in defense. And, on the USA team... we honestly play a lot of defense, so gotten pretty good at it. But I feel like a lot of young rugby athletes are so timid in the contact area, and they never really, they do, as my dad says, the swing your partner round and round. They go with their arms, they don't hit with their shoulders, and.
Sure.
I can remember the first time I truly made a shoulder, like a really good shoulder hit. Just playing with Morris, we were at Menin. Pouring rain game against Play Rugby New York.
Sure.
And I just remember, and there's a picture of it actually, but like I got really low. I hit her really hard with my shoulder and just chopped her right down. And ever since then, like I knew that feeling.
Damn, that felt good.
Yeah, that felt good. Yeah. I'm like, that's how you tackle. And I just think that so many of the high school girls, just once they get that first hit in, like they're going to be golden.
It's true.
And I can really truly remember the first time I did that.
That's really cool.
I think with a lot of the girls, it's the fear factor. I mean, we saw it with the middle school girls, and all of a sudden I would say they get that aha moment where they go, aha, that's how you do it. And next thing you know, their shoulders in, they're making their tackles. New players do it all the time. They're reaching first, trying to grab with their arms.
Yeah.
And then once they get that fear out of their head, they're unstoppable.
Yeah, critical hurdle.
Well, you had come to one of the practices when my daughter was playing, and I think your dad was actually still coaching at the time. I think transitioning out as Gene was coming in as head coach, but you would graciously come to spend some time, and your dad was like, well, show him how you tackle Tess, or, what was it? And you're like, Dad, it just kind of happens. Like, you just, keep doing the basics. And then I will never hear, like, the light bulb will go off, and... you had all these high school girls like, oh, okay. It was probably one of the most approachable ways to teach tackling, right? It's like, don't overthink it. You'll figure it out. It'll come to you, And sure enough, I think our defensive game got pretty good after that. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
really
for
does.
certain.
Awesome.
So I have a question for you from a age-old wisdom perspective, right? Like you're not old enough to have age-old wisdom, but so what do you tell let's say 16, like the 18-year-olds, they have their path, like those who are interested in the sport, there definitely are college opportunities, it's clear. The 12s and the 14s, they're still kind of having fun, they're still learning the basics of this thing, and like it's going in the right direction for sure, although someone did mention that the U14s from the West Coast were top notch.
Oh my God, right? They were incredible.
Yeah. That's the word I got. I wasn't there, but I'm kind of like dying to see it.
I wouldn't want to be on the field with them.
But the U16 is like that critical time where it's like, hey, I'm deciding is this for like this is my sport, game? Right? Yeah. Exactly. Like, or is some other thing, or is nothing at all. So like, based on your experience and your history now, like what if you could tell yourself at 16? Like,
Oh,
what would
good
you
one,
say?
good one.
What would you say to the former Morris rugby player?
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of at a crossroad with that when I was 16. I was debating playing D2 soccer or continuing rugby in college. And, I was still playing pretty high-level club soccer, visiting colleges. I thought that's what I wanted to do
Sure.
because every other girl in America does that. And that's
Right
what
on.
every other girl wants. And it felt really unique to want to pursue rugby. And, when you're 16, you want to be like everyone else. But
Don't
I
want to be that rugby weirdo.
right? And then I just had this aha moment where I just have such a unique opportunity to do something no one else is doing. Travel. At 16, I started realizing, how much opportunity there was to travel with rugby.
Oh my God, yeah.
And that was something that really convinced me to want to keep playing in college. I just knew I had a unique opportunity, and I could go play soccer anywhere in the world. Or I mean, everyone in the world plays soccer, but no one plays rugby. So I just kind of realized, do I want to be that little fish in the big pond, or do I want to be that big fish, doing something different? And kind of just had that aha moment.
Yeah, I think that's super cool. You said it now twice. Like, I saw the opportunity. You said it about I had my moment, I was given my shot, and I had to take it. I saw the opportunity. Like, I feel like that is so key. Like, I wish I could somehow instill that in every one of the athletes that we come across.
It's
like,
about being present, right?
It's
about
an amazing opportunity. Like, it's an amazing opportunity. And there is a path in front of any player who pursues it at some level. Like, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Whatever it is, just say yes to it, and usually another opportunity will come from it.
Thank you for listening. Tune in for part 2 with Tess Feury next week on the Episodes from the Garage podcast.
I am Iron Man.